As some of you know, I graduated from ministerial school last weekend. And I have no more classes and no more exams. And one question that a newly minted minister gets asked all the time is, what will your ministry be? And I have the best answer ever, because I get to say, I'm already doing my ministry. In fact, I get to do Science of Mind all day long, every day, with people who aren't even associated with Centers for Spiritual Living, because I work for Circles USA. So I'm the Chief Learning Officer at a national nonprofit that's dedicated to ending poverty as we know it. We support almost 80 communities across the United States and even into Canada with two goals. We empower individuals and families to leave poverty behind and remove the barriers that keep people in poverty. I get to train the frontline volunteers and staff members to do that work, and I get to foster the transformational leadership skills that makes that all happen. So I get to help the people who help the people. It's a cool job. Thank you, Scott. I think of at least once a month. Thank you. And as some of you know, the key mission for the Centers for Spiritual Living is to create a world that works. Well, I don't know if I believed you. So the key mission for Centers for Spiritual Living is to create a world that works. Okay, so have you ever wondered, what does that actually look like? I mean, real, for reals, as my teenagers would say. Or how do we get there? Or what is mine to do in all of that? And especially with all the civil unrest and the outrageous discord that we've been experiencing, and I really do personally think, what can I possibly do, middle-aged white woman in this world? What can I possibly do that would make a difference? And time and time again, at least the last 3 years, it's been circles. We are actually creating a world that works for everyone as we move from surviving to thriving, that we can leave behind the guilt, the blame, the shame, the fear that keep people stuck. Maybe you've had that experience in your life. That we can connect to the transformative power within. Also, to help people find their value and their voice. To advocate for themselves and for others. This is what I've seen circles do time and time again. And this is what I've seen Centers for Spiritual Living do. We know in Centers for Spiritual Living, we know our inherent worth. And we show up as love for each other. And we work for justice for all.
I am so glad you are watching today. We have been thrilled to reach thousands over this last year through our online inspirational content. I am so excited about Spirit Speaks. I am so excited about all that our team is doing to transform the lives of people around the world. And I invite you to join us by supporting this work. You can text to give. The instructions are on the screen, and I am so grateful for every contribution you make. Thank you. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds, watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous briefly to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous to a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do. By Naomi Shihab Nye. I love this poem so much because whatever you are desiring to be famous for in your life, let us each remember what it is we can do when we recognize and realize Spirit is in me, as me, and working through me. And I love this idea because it wasn't because the buttonhole did anything spectacular, but it never forgot what it could do. And when you know that Spirit is in you and as you and moving through you, may you never forget what you can do because of that truth. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, our teaching, said self-awareness is not enough. It is merely clearing the track for right action. Something has to be done with self-awareness. You take a deep breath. It's okay. Take a deep breath. Self-awareness is not enough. It is merely clearing the track for right action. Ponder with me for a moment. Okay, so I began to understand that Spirit is in me. Then I began to really do the work and the practice and the sitting with and the wrestling with and the studying and the praying so that I could begin to embody Spirit as me and understand that Spirit is living as me in my awesomeness. Okay? And now what I'm saying is that is part of the story. We have cleared the way, brought down the walls of mental block, discovering that Spirit is in me, discovering that Spirit is as me. And now, because we've understood and because we've practiced and because we've embodied, we are ready to take this next third step on our pathway to really let Spirit work through you, me. Awareness, it's huge. Self-awareness is huge. Expanding our consciousness, big work, important work. We got to know who we are and where we're coming from when we show up to life. But when we show up, we are being called to allow the movement of what is true and unique to us to move through us. Hanging out in just awareness is part of the process. It's only part of the process. And I think especially in the spiritual and not religious communities, which we are, we like to just hang out in that awareness piece. We like to talk about growing our consciousness. It's hard to then live those ideas. It's challenging to not only know it and talk about it and read about it and pray about it and meditate on it, and to take that next step and to live it. To bring all that forward in our consciousness and out of us. But that is the path of transformation. Our transformation towards all that we are, towards being a full expression of our aliveness, of Spirit's aliveness in, as, and through you. That is the cycle. And then we get to go discover how much more is true about these things of Spirit being in me and as me and moving through me. And how much more we can allow ourselves to claim as our wholeness, which then gives us the power and the capacity to express even more truth, even more who we are. That's the journey. Discovering that Spirit's in me, discovering that Spirit's working as me, and now it's living itself through me. We can know that that journey is never ending. But we don't get where we want to go if we stop at just awareness, if we stop at just consciousness. As Ernest said, it's merely a step in the process to clear the way for the expression. Yeah. Anais Nin, one of my favorites, said, "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom." And I bet every one of us can think of a moment in our lives where we just couldn't take it anymore. Where we just couldn't keep biting our tongue. Where we couldn't keep being in an environment where our wholeness wasn't welcome. Where we just couldn't stay small any longer. And maybe we've had to have that experience in our own perception of who we are. I thought I was this big. I thought I could do this much. But I can no longer tolerate thinking that way about myself. I gotta bust out. That's what Spirit Through Me is really about. That as we become more aware that Spirit is in me and Spirit is as me, which means I'm awesome, as we become more aware of that, that feeling of restriction becomes intolerable. Whether it's a feeling that you are putting on yourself through your own self-perceptions, whether it is a feeling from environments you've allowed yourself to be small in. But as Anais Nin says, there comes a time where it is so uncomfortable to stay small that I am willing to blossom. That, my friends, is Spirit moving through you. And we come to those moments, in my experience, more than once. We blossom, and then we blossom again, much like a perennial blossoming flower. We blossom again and again and again and again. And sometimes we got to get really uncomfortable before we're going to allow that awareness to move through us in action. But if you remember what I said earlier this month, our motivation and our intention is really important as we do this work. Because sometimes we got to go back to our intention, go back to our motivation in those moments of deep discomfort, in those moments of challenge where we're being asked to blossom bigger maybe than we've blossomed before. And then we have to remember why we're doing this. My why? When I found out that there was this whole God thing that was more than an outside God, and I found out that this God thing was truly omnipresent and truly much greater than I ever understood and maybe will be able to ever understand. Like Naomi says, the fish wants to be famous to the river. I want to be famous to God. That's my why. I don't need to do anything particularly spectacular. I need to have every possible experience and never forget what is true about God in me, as me, and through me. And I want to know every little piece of that. I want to swim in that river all the time without fail. That's my why. So when it gets hard, and when I'm tired, and when I think, oh my God, there's more growing to do, I remember that I want to be famous to God. And so I get back to it. I bring my attention back. I get willing again. I study, I pray, I meditate, I get counsel. I pray with partners. I pray with a spiritual director every week, by the way. I pray with my mentors. I remember what my why is, because I remember that the cycle is not complete for me personally if I don't allow God to move through me. And the cycle is not complete collectively if we don't allow God to show up in, as, and through us. We are how God gets here. It is through our living. It is through our actions, our choices, our beliefs, our consciousness, our awareness. We are not done yet until we've allowed that piece of the puzzle. We have to be willing not only to sit with ourselves and contemplate ourselves and become self-aware, super important, but it is for the purpose of allowing that to then move through us. I want to share two parts of this that I think get lost in the Spirit through me piece. We often talk a lot in this community because our mission is love and action, right? Love and action, which means it is inherent in what we do and what we offer and who we are as a spiritual community, that we do this move part. That we get clear on the Spirit in and Spirit as, and then we move with all of that, letting it move through us as love and action. But I think we get stuck on the giving part. It feels good to give. And what I would encourage us in the context of spiritual transformation is Spirit through me. There is a giving that happens. And one of the activities that we encourage people to do as they are doing their Spirit through me work is to give. Give of your time, give of your talent, give of your treasure. Make financial contributions, get involved in volunteering. These are incredible ways to do the work of Spirit through me. But here's the deal. It is not about what you do. It is about giving who you are. That is Spirit through me. Whatever activity or action you find yourself being led in makes no difference and makes all the difference. Because what's the piece that is always the spiritual work of Spirit through me is you are giving your wholeness. And that as we get better and better at this work, the self that we are willing to give, the whole self that we are willing to bring to life gets bigger. There's less and less of our wholeness that we put to the side or that we aren't even aware of. And as we do this work and we walk the path of Spirit in me, Spirit as me, Spirit through me, and I'm going to bring my whole self to this expression, to life. That whole self becomes more and more of who it is. You're not growing a new arm. You are discovering that you have an arm that can do things you didn't even know it could do. You are not making a better Amani, making a better you. We are discovering more of who we are and more of what is true about who we are and bringing that to life. Giving that to life. But here's that other piece that I was talking about. We get no say in how that's received. We spend a lot of time wanting to micromanage and control how people experience us. Well, I'm not going to say it that way, or I'm not going to wear that, or I'm not going to fully show up. I'm going to be a little quiet in this experience because I want them to see me in this blah, blah way. None of your business. This giving ourselves to life, bringing our wholeness to life, is not about how it's received, or what people do with that, or what life does with that. It's about the bringing it. It's about the being wholly who we are unapologetically in life itself. What happens as a result of that is whatever happens as a result of that. That is not ours to control or micromanage. You know, when an artist hangs a painting or puts a sculpture out for the public to view, he has no say in how they react, how it impacts them. Zero. When anyone presents anything to the world, that part is the part that's important to the presenter, is the presenting. We get all caught up in, well, did they like it? And our self-worth stuff is wrapped up in it, and our enoughness is wrapped up in it. But Spirit through me is exactly that. We just let it flow through us. Whatever happens after that is none of our concern. And lastly, this whole Spirit through me business. Spirit flows. That's what Spirit does. It is in motion here in this manifest universe. There is no stagnant form of Spirit. And so in that flowing, what I know is that when we give ourselves, we receive ourselves. When we give God, we get God. And we also like to forget about that, because we want to be good, giving people of service. So we get really strung out on this whole giving piece. I'm going to give myself. I'm going to show up as my wholeness. I'm going to be all that I can be. We do that, and then we act as if the Spirit through me piece is done, and yet Spirit flows through life itself as me, as you, which means we are receiving Spirit in that flow of letting Spirit move through us. into us and out of us. We have to be willing to receive the flow of Spirit through me, which means we've got to get willing to open ourselves in our wholeness, to be permeable, flexible, and fluid. That's part of that growing awareness. Is what is limiting our awareness is often ideas about who we think we are or who we think life is. And as we do the work of Spirit in me and Spirit as me, that awareness grows. So who we think we are begins to change. What we think life is or God is begins to change. And it's shifting and fluid. And then so what we're expressing today and what we're experiencing and allowing to move through us tomorrow is always in motion. And so that thing that we receive, the Spirit is moving in as and through us, begins to grow our awareness, which begins to grow our impulse of love that moves us in this other action. And next thing we know, we are in full alignment with the flow of life and Spirit itself. That is the promise of transformation. That is the promise of doing this work along the pathway, along your pathway of transformation, because no pathway looks the same. And how we dance along that path and how we move over here and let Spirit move through us and how we go back within and understand with greater awareness who Spirit is as us. And as we commune with the beauty of Spirit in us, we are now just flowing and dancing our pathway of transformation. And it is so worthwhile. The rewards are immeasurable. The dreams we have for our lives, the desires we have for our experiences, we have for ourselves and for our beloveds and for the world, that all gets met through the simple journey of doing the work of Spirit in me, Spirit as me, and Spirit through me. So I invite you right here, right now, to commit more deeply than you already have to walking the pathway of transformation. If you're a yes, let's anchor this in prayer. What I know about the One, the Holy Blessed One, is that it is ever, ever, ever present, never missing. Whichever step we take along our pathway of transformation, whether we take those steps with absolute awareness and consciousness and intention and from right motivation, or whether we are stumbling along the way, Spirit is there. And what I know about Spirit and what I know about the divine intelligence and love and wisdom and absolute joy and beauty and harmony that God is I know whether we are walking with intention or stumbling at times, it is good. And I know with every fiber of my being that this desire to live spiritually is being met in every moment by the goodness that Spirit is, and revealing itself in each of our lives, breath by breath, in such glorious, harmonious, beautiful ways. I know that it is happening. I know that it is happening through every part of life, around the globe and beyond the universe. And so I just let it continue to be, blossoming in all of its beauty again and again and again. And so it is.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeffrey McNutt, Community Director here at Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living, and I wanted to share with you what's coming up in August. We're going to use our gatherings this month to come together to explore what it means to be in spiritual community through a deep dive into the principles, practices, and opportunities to serve here at the center. Our ministerial team will be hosting a series of 3 Sunday gatherings on August 15th, 22nd, and 29th from 10 a.m. to noon in the Labyrinth building. We've learned so much from the events of the past year and a half and are excited to share our vision of how we will support our community's mission of being love in action, transforming lives and transforming communities, and yes, to celebrate the joy of being back together and having fun in person. On the 15th, we'll go back to basics with a deep dive into the spiritual principles that guide this community. On the 22nd, come explore all the ways we practice these principles at the center. And on the 29th, let's discover together what it truly means to be in service in community as you develop your own personal pathway of transformation. So if you're a longtime member, it's a chance to reground yourself in spirit and get plugged back into your passions. If you're new to us, these 3 events will orient you to what we do here and will qualify you to become a member of this community if that's your intention. Everyone who joins in will leave with a better knowing of what their personal spiritual pathway looks like and will cultivate a deeper sense of belonging to each other. See you at the center, August 15th, 22nd, and 29th at 10 a.m. for our Pathway of Transformation gathering.